Hello, everybody.
Hey everybody.
We have a lot of people coming in today. We're super excited for our conversation with Scott and Lindsay about kicking off super successful pilot programs at your school. Like Scott was saying to us before we opened the session, we want to know that you know you're making the right decision for your school. And to do that, it's really important that we're making the best well planned out pilot programs. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you haven't already, if you could just mute your mic for now, we'll have some time at the end for conversation. But just while Scott and Lindsay are kind of going through their spiels on from their experience that they have dealing with pilot programs, we'll just keep them silent. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat throughout the session, and we'll get any questions that you have to them either throughout the session or at the end. I will just go ahead and pass it over to Scott and Lindsay, and we can get started.
All right. Well, thank you, Kate. It is awesome seeing everybody here. Looks like we've got a great showing for this conversation. And, I think that like what Kate said, we really want to get to know that you're making the best possible decision. I see a couple people talking about the audio is muffled. Does the audio sound all right now? Just want to make sure. You can toss it in the chat and say that. No, no issues for me. Okay, well,
some issues with Mike still being.
We'll keep going, and sorry about that if you have some audio issues. But really what we want to talk about is the incredible importance of having a high quality thank you, Kate. A high quality piloting program, because again, you're going to be making this heavy investment into your products, and you want to know that you're making the best possible choice that's going to fit your instructional needs. Today, we're excited to talk to you about this. I'm going to introduce myself and talk to you about why I'm so excited to frame this. Then I'm going to pass it off to my partner, Lindsay, who's going to share some of her experiences with IFPs. Then I'll finish up talking about some pilot experience I have. So my name is Scott Jonard. I am a teaching and learning consultant for Trifera. Been that for a few months. Before that, I was a director of technology outside Sacramento, California. Before I was a director of technology, I was a principal for a number of years. And then I was a technology coordinator and a special ed teacher. So I have about 15 years of educational experience. In that time, done tons of pilots. And now I get the chance to work with districts all over the country, implementing awesome technology initiatives and really kind of ensuring that they're reaching the instructional goals that they have. We've got a lot of fantastic resources, I think, for the next half hour, and I think we're gonna go into some great stuff. I'm gonna pass it off to Lindsay, who's an awesome resource. Looks like we need to allow her video and audio, and then we can pass on her. While we're sharing, feel free to toss your questions down in the chat. I know Kate's going to be monitoring, and we'll have a time for a Q&A at the end as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Lindsay.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Lindsey Keely, and I'm a teaching and learning consultant here at Trifera. And prior to joining Trifera, I was in a school system in Louisiana, a mid-sized school system, 46 schools and about over 30,000 students. Taught for 7.5 years. I was an elementary teacher, so that was my jam. Actually, fourth grade was my favorite. Did first grade for a year and said, not for me. Cute in the hall, not in the walls. So Then I joined the district as a technology facilitator. And so my role was to do professional development for the teachers on the pilots and things that we did. And then moved up and finished as a supervisor of technology for the district. Did that for 3 years and then joined Trafera. And so now I get to do PD and things like this, which I'm excited about, and kind of share, now that I've seen both sides of it, I can kind of share the classroom teacher's perspective, the district level perspective, and now on the partner side, which is very, very fun. And so, like Scott said, our goal here is to kind of talk you through some of the ways that you can make sure your pilot program gives you exactly what you're looking for so that you end up with the best technology for your classrooms. And so my focus is going to be on interactive flat panels, which I know mine is kind of blurred in the background, but that's going to be my focus on how you can take this pilot program and decide which one is best for you. So very first thing for the IFP version, which is your interactive flat panels, is, and any pilot that you do, is to set your goals and make them measurable. Like, what exactly are you hoping to see with this? So with flat panels, what features are you hoping that the teachers are going to use? Are you hoping that they will be disconnect their computers from the panel and just teach from the panel itself? Are you hoping that they're going to increase student engagement? And so you'll see students coming up to the panel and touching and doing things and interacting with websites or annotating or doing their own screen recording or whatever the case might be. Choose those goals and make them measurable. And once you have those goals, decide on your metrics. Okay, so if this is my goal, if my goal is to increase student engagement, how am I going to measure that? What tool am I going to use? Is it going to be a form? How am I going to know that my student engagement did increase with the use of the flat panel in the classroom? Next thing would be like time. Your pilot has to have an end date. Plain and simple. I mean, like, it could go on and on, but you're going to have an end date. And so you have to set it for what's going to work for you. And sometimes your budget means your pilot can only be 2 months, or sometimes your budget means, okay, I don't have to do this right now. I have a full year to pilot these different flat panels in my classroom. So choose that. And once you have that, then you can choose your feedback time and the expectation time for your teachers to do the responding and the feedback and things like that. Okay. Next thing I'm going to tell you, and this is from personal experience, one of the pilots that I was a part of, that I was actually one of the supervisors for, was failed, was not a great pilot. And it's because we did not plan ahead of time. And I think that is where, like, you have your goals and you have your timeline. And then, like, we were like, okay, let's just do this. And we did not plan out what we wanted our teachers to do, what the expectations were from them, what our expectations were going to be. We didn't plan on, like, the way that we're going to train them. And so with flat panels, one of the things that I will tell you is, no matter which version you're going to go with, and if you're looking for multiples, that's fine. Choose features. And so, like, the first 3 weeks or something of the flat panel, have them look at the whiteboard and focus on that. And then get the feedback on that, and then have them move on to annotate, or then have them move on to the browser and how to make shortcuts or things like that. Choose something specific, because I will tell you where one of the ways that we failed was in the beginning for our pilot. We gave them a huge training, like, overall, this is the tool, this is what you're going to use, and let's go with it. It was overwhelming. And so from the jump, teachers were stressed. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't know what they were supposed to be focusing on. And that is a failure on my part, because we didn't lay it out. And so chunk it out for them in your time frame as features or activities or functions that you want them to focus on, as opposed to, here's your panel, tell me what you think. You have 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever the time frame is. Give them time and give them specific things or features or goals to look at within the time frame. Also, what level of support are you going to offer them? Like, are you going to be there weekly to kind of talk them through things? Or you just want them to email you when they have questions? Like, all of those things have to be considered, but prior to actually starting this pilot, just because they need to know everything ahead of time, like what their expectations are and what your expectations are for them. And then once you've got all this out, you've got your plan, you're ready to go. Part of that planning is choosing your participants. And I will tell you, and Scott, I don't know if you feel the same way, please don't just choose your tech savvy teachers. You need to choose those teachers that maybe struggle with technology. Definitely choose your tech savvy, choose some that struggle, and then have some in between, because you're going to get the range of feedback from everybody. And so you'll see different perspectives using the flat panels, and you'll like get things from the teachers that struggle that you would not get from the tech savvy teachers. Like, I don't understand how to do annotate, or I don't understand the purpose of annotate. Whereas your tech savvy teachers are going to click on it and run with it. Those that struggle a little bit, or that are a little bit more unsure, will give you a broader perspective. Oh, are you muted, Scott? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I hear you.
That. I was just going to comment about that, where you said identify a wide swath. You know, we always have those 20% of teachers who are ready to go, early adopters. And then we've got that 20% who are naysayers about everything. As much as it can be hurt, I want a couple of people from both groups, along with a decent chunk of those people in the middle ground, so that we can we'll talk about it, but one of the things I think is important about piloting is those people that are going to be naysayers and put it down and do that. You want to do that early in the pilot program instead of later when you're trying to adopt, because and that can be, so that's an awesome point.
Awesome. And my only other suggestion, I think, as far as participant goes, would be, if possible, and it's not always possible, but if you can choose, you want a mix of levels, but you also want to choose teachers that have some kind of commonality as well. So like whether it's a grade level or subject area, where you at least have one or two that have that commonality. So when they're going through it, you're going to be there as a support for them, but they also have each other to say, okay, listen, I'm really struggling with how to do this in the whiteboard. We have this lesson coming up, or I'm teaching this. So someone that they can refer to and help, and they can help each other, because that is going to be important for them to feel confident and feel comfortable and get more buy-in into whatever your pilot program is going to be. As far as gaining feedback or getting feedback from your participants, definitely you want to do it individual. And then I would suggest also doing a group feedback discussion time, but individual, I would do just like a simple Google form, if that's what it takes, where you have specific questions. And so like if you're focusing on the whiteboard of the new line, or the whiteboard of your Promethean panel, focus questions on that and give them an opportunity to say something. That's going to be your individual feedback. That's going to be the data that you can pull from to see, okay, they're struggling with finding a background, or they're struggling with like how to save their whiteboard files. And then at the end of that, have your group discussion, so that everybody that's in that pilot can come in and say, okay, here's what we found about the whiteboard. Because you're going to, number one, you're going to talk about some of the issues, and you can have those other teachers that are in the room maybe address and say, here's what I did, but you're also going to get ideas. And so them being able to communicate with each other is going to be very beneficial, as far as getting them to buy in and find different ways and get different ideas on the products that you're choosing. And then you've got the data. You're not just getting feedback for no reason. Look at the data, look what they're saying, look what the issues are, look what the challenges are, look what the wins are, look what they're happy about, and do something with that. If they're super happy about the whiteboard and you want this to be the panel that you go with, then let's talk about the whiteboard with everybody. Let's talk about the benefits. Let's talk about it. But also look at the things that they're struggling with and figure out how to help them. You want to get as much information from them as possible, so that you can kind of work your way through the pilot and help guide them to whatever the right choice is going to be for you. So talk about the challenges with them and find solutions if possible. And worst case scenario, if you can't come up with a solution, your partners are going to be here to help you as well. So use us throughout your pilot. If you have any questions, if you need assistance with kind of an overview or an orientation of the different tools that you're focusing on for your panel, guys, we're here to help. So we'll be more than happy to do that with you.
We did have one question come in, Lindsay, while you were talking. This one's from On. He says, how would you go about, oh, I just lost it. How would you go, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. How would you go about when you have 4 different buildings in a district? So do you have any recommendations for kind of multi-location pilot programs?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you can do at least 1 or 2, at least 2 on each campus, that's fine. But then that Google form goes out to everybody, and then you can have either virtual meetings, or you can all have them all come to one location where the panel is, to kind of have your group discussions. But if you're doing an interactive flat panel, I will tell you, it's not as easy to let's say get it for one school and do like a 4-week time period to move it to the other school. I mean, you can always have them on mobile stands. But it's going to be an investment for you. And so it would be worth it to just get, if it's 4 different campuses, get one for each campus at least, so that they have time to go in and play with the features and look at it. So that would be my suggestion. Having it at one location is great for that one location, but if you want people to come to that one location to see it, you're not going to get the feedback that you would have if it was on their campus, where they could constantly put hands on it, to touch it and feed it, do the features and get a feel for the panels.
Great. And then do you have a recommended time frame for a pilot program?
For flat panels, I would say if you can do like 2 to 3 months, I think that would be a good time frame for the flat panels. Especially if you're going to break it up by the features. Within that time frame, you could do 2 weeks per feature and kind of get a good feel for what exactly the teachers are, doing well with, and what they're struggling with, and what you need to focus on. So I would say like 3 months if possible. Any longer would be good too, but at least 3 months. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you just knocked it out of the park, Lindsay, and I think it's so critical when you're talking about the focus areas for IFPs. When we're talking about devices, like Chromebooks, I've done a lot of pilots with Chromebooks, all sorts of different Chromebooks, and there's so many things to consider. I think exactly what you talked about are so important. Choosing those goals. How are you going to measure? How are you going to communicate? Getting everything on board is so critical for any sort of tech planning. There's a couple things that I think you really kind of want to look at when you're talking about student devices. Or teacher devices, laptops, Chromebooks. I think the first thing, and it fits with IFPs, but that holistic planning, and what I mean by that is looking at every single element in that classroom and to see how they match together, to make sure that you're getting the right device that works well, that works with your IFP, that works with your teacher devices, that you can kind of reach those goals. You want to kind of look, do you have the right charging solutions? Do you have the right storage solutions as you're going through? I think it's also critically important. This is important if we're talking about IFPs. I think it's even more important when we're talking about those device levels. And that's what are the warranty and repair process. What's that going to look like when things go south? Because as much as I would like to say nothing will ever break and it'll run perfect, we all know that's not the case. So we need to know, what are we going to do when Johnny has their Chromebook and they open it up, toss their pen in there and shut it and crack the screen? What's that process going to look like? How long are we going to be out of that Chromebook, and what's the game plan for that repair process? So really kind of think of that. And when you're doing that, think about the timeline, think about how it's going to impact the classroom, think about what's going to happen. One of the things I say a lot, and it can be very intimidating for tech directors in schools, is if you don't have 100% of your devices 100% of the time, you don't have a one-to-one program, which means Every single time the teacher says, all right, everybody, take out your Chromebooks, access our Google Classroom, we're going to do this and this, every single student can pull out their Chromebooks or their devices, hop on, and access the tool. If you have 10% of your students who don't have their devices and 3 students can't in your classroom of 30, all of a sudden you have a problem. Because now the teacher has to pivot and adjust and plan. So you really want to make sure you're thinking of that thing. As you're considering the right device, also consider the right support that comes along with it. I think it's critically important. The other thing that I think is really, really important, along with the device, the warranty, the repair, is your accessory options. So not only is it the device, but do you want a case? Do you want a soft shell case? Do you want a hard shell case? Do you want to have laser lettering? Do you want to have a mice with every device? Do you want to have headphones for every device? Figuring out what accessories are going to amplify your instructional goals with that device are also going to be critically important. Oftentimes I talk to people, or I've been involved in pilots where we spend all this time on the device and we look at, this Chromebook from HP and this Chromebook from Lenovo and this Chromebook from Dell. And at the end of the day, we realize, we actually need microphones that work with our EL testing for reclassification. And we never considered what device does that work with? Do we have enough USB ports to make sure? Do we have USB-C? Do we have audio jacks? All of these things are critically important in those conversations. The other thing I would say is device management. When you're talking about expanding, let's say you have a district of, like Lindsay was saying, her district of 30,000. My district where I was at, we had about 35,000 devices. You implement a one-to-one initiative at that scale, you got to make sure you know where those devices are. You got to know where those devices are. You got to know how they're being used. You got to know who's using them, and you have to have that sequence in place. So you really want to consider all that in a very, like I said, holistic way as you're developing your plan. I would say the other thing, this goes just as well as IFPs, Lindsay touched on it, I think it's incredibly important, is to review your professional development options. Professional development is really going to be absolutely critical because you need to develop a program that looks not only at the device, not only how is it going to be used, but how's it going to make that instructional impact? And not just in the classroom, not just training for the teacher. I'm a huge advocate that the professional development should include all stakeholders. You should have professional development for your principals on how do you lead a technology-rich environment. You should have professional development for your techs to make sure that your techs are familiar with the process that they need to engage in to make sure that the devices are up and running. If you're going to run your program through your librarian and they're going to check out loaner devices, you need to have professional development for them so they know the expectations that are going to be with them. So as you're developing, you're thinking of the pilot, you're getting into the hands of the people that are going to be doing them. Also be developing those protocols, those plans, those key professional development areas that you're going to need. The last that I'm going to touch on, Lindsay touched on it as well, but finding a high quality partner is so critical. I'm a huge advocate of finding a partner that can help you develop your program. For me, I'm going to tell my story about how I developed my one-to-one program 6-7 years ago. I built our program around the warranty and repair process. I had a site tech available 4 hours a week at site. I knew we couldn't have a program that had all these devices supported for 4 hours, so I needed a robust warranty repair process. I was at a conference talking to vendors. I found Trinity 3, which is now Trifera. And I found them. They have an awesome warranty repair process. They supplied the solution. They partnered with me on some of those key planning areas in implementation, had an amazing relationship for the next 6-7 years of positive experiences. And now I work for the company, and finding that partner that enhances your system, that you can really go back and forth and ask questions of and kind of go through that process is absolutely invaluable. So, I want to reiterate every single thing that Lindsey said is critically important. And I think you have to have it when you're talking about student devices, teacher devices, the timing, the communication, finding your goals, make sure that they're measured, make sure that you're getting that feedback both individually and as aggregate. Really making sure that you're focused on those instructional goals, and that'll get you huge. But I will do a little pitch once more. Finding that partner is just so critical. I'm biased, of course, but that's what we're here for as well. So if you want to continue the conversation, connect with Lindsey, myself, any of the other amazing people on this incredible team, there's going to be a survey very shortly that Kate's going to post. You'll put in, it's there right now. You'll put in some identifying information so that you can say that you want to be contacted. You'll also get a gift card to Starbucks just for joining, I think. And that's, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Lindsey. It's just such a wonderful privilege to be able to present with you as well. And do we have questions?
We don't have anything in the chat right now, but this is a good time. If you do want to unmute to ask questions face to face with Scott or Lindsey, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, turn your camera on if you want. We have some time for Q&A at this time. So like Scott said, this exit survey, it's our way of knowing that you are interested in receiving that Starbucks gift card. You, again, as a reminder, it said in the invitation and on social media, wherever you found it, you had to have registered with a valid school work email address and then complete the survey at the end to qualify for that gift card. So if you just give us a little something, we'll give you a little something back. So we can open it up for, we have a question from Brad. Have you used students for a pilot program? If
Yes.
so, how did you structure it? Grade level, small group? What is the criteria for selecting a student?
I know I have, when we were reviewing our options for going one-to-one for our Chromebook student devices, I felt that was critical. We got feedback from, I think they were not our initial testers. We had some review options from the tech side to make sure that we had viable options first. And then once we came down to like 2 or 3 good options that worked within our system, we made sure to get that feedback. We got them in the hands of students. We also got them in the hands of parents because we knew initially from the onset, we were looking to take those home as well. So we brought them to our PTA to get feedback from them as well. Anything you have an experience with that, Lindsey?
So I muted myself, sorry. I was going to say, I didn't say it talking about feedback, but get feedback from students as well. Even with the flat panels, like what are some of the things they like about it? What are some of the things that they don't like about it? What are some of the things they see their teachers struggling with? And what do they think as far as interactivity? So, I mean, as far as flat panels, I would say piloting with students, not as much, but definitely having them involved in the feedback process would be huge.
And I would add, Brad did mention about grade level, just like we want a wide swath of teacher input, I want a wide swath of student input as well. So if I've got a K-12 program, I want a couple of kindergartners in there to mess with them if they're going to be in the hands of kindergartners. I also want them in my 8th graders and my seniors because they're going to have different challenges, and you might find that your kindergarten device is not the right option for your seniors who are doing AP calculus. And so making sure that you're finding that and getting that feedback is critical at multiple grade levels, I would say.
All right, we just bumped up on time. If anyone has any other questions, definitely squeeze them in now. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing all of your expertise and your thoughts on this topic. Yeah, thank you. Thanks again for coming. Our first coffee and combo of 2023. We did it.
Starting off on a high, man.
It was great to have all of you, and I hope we see you again soon in one of our upcoming sessions.
That's awesome. And I think that this will be posted on the YouTube channel later, right, Kate? And you guys will be able to access that. And like we said, if you have any questions or anything, reach out. We'd love to connect.
Yep.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
if you indicated that you want to get in touch with Scott or Lindsay, talk about this topic, they'll be in touch with you in the next few days. All right, that's it. Bye, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Scott. It was fun. Thanks, Kate.
Bye, guys. Thank you.